Hey, it's Denise. Um, I figure most of my videos I'm sharing, good days and projects I'm working on, whether it's canning or my new decluttering um, goals that I have to kind of. I discussed it more in the first video on the subject, but if you didn't see that, uh, over the 7 years I've lived here, I had first a friend roommate who moved in here with me for the first 2 years, who was like, no, like, he was a hoarder. He was big on like anything electronic or computer or speaker sound, sound system kind of related stuff. And it was always like oh, you might be able to fix this, or I could make something with this. And like, he would just have tons of outdated sort of equipment piled around. And it was like an uphill battle getting him to try to at least limit it to only taking up so much space. Then after him, I had someone who I was actually engaged to for 4 years, who, while he would make derogatory comments about my friend, about always a hoarder, always a mess, he's this and that, he wasn't any better. Only he wasn't into the same type of items. So I guess in his mind, somehow the stuff he wouldn't throw out. And with him, I don't even know so much. It was a constant, an actual like decision to, oh, I'm going to keep this in case I need it, so much as it was just laziness of getting stuff and then not putting it away, not throwing it out. It was like an entire guest room, basically. He treated like you might treat like, a junk drawer in either your desk or your kitchen, or, where you just kind of throw small things. Only he did it on a much grander scale. Like a spare bedroom became essentially a junk drawer, if you can picture that. Um, and I myself admit, I, you know, I own too much stuff. And as someone who lost all of their stuff in a house fire in 2012, I definitely learned not to try to be too attached to things. There are certain things that you really grieve the loss of, and for me, that had nothing to do with the cost of the items. I was greatly inconvenienced when I didn't have a computer or a cell phone or even a tablet for 2 years, because I lost all those things in the fire. I'm an Apple fan. Uh, a new iMac, iPhone, an iPad are expensive, and it took me 2 years to have the money to be able to replace those things. As it is, here we are in 2020, and the iMac I'm making this video on is from 2014, and I still love it. But my point here really isn't to talk about material things so much as the fact that it's easy to let yourself start to have too many of them again. So yes, I definitely take responsibility for my part in having that tendency of, oh, it's so pretty, I want to have it. I like handmade, uh, glassware and figurines and stone carvings and like any of that kind of stuff. I tend to like. I also have this stuff that's left after I became disabled and my nursing career ended. I I'm not a sit around and do nothing person. That's never been my personality. Um, Yet on mornings like this, the reality of, because when you see me having a good day, and whether that's in a video or people seeing me in person, um, if they miss the probably dozen times a day at least where I lose my balance, And I've gotten, just like anything else, you get better about kind of hiding it, or you get better at coping, making sure you're always leaning on something, or you have your hand either on a piece of furniture or the counter or the wall, or so that you can steady yourself. Um, I don't want to look like the person who's walking around after they've been, drinking or high or something. So I am, because I'm not a drunk or a recreational drug user. That's never been my thing. Um, so basically, people only see me out and about if I'm having a good day, when I'm feeling well. And I guess I just wanted to share the reality that there are days that aren't so good. Um, if every day was even as good as most of my days since the neck injury, I would not have been able to be a hands-on nurse. I did, for my 26 years as a nurse, most of them were spent working in behavioral health, which means basically psychiatry and substance abuse, which both can be fields within nursing that can be very hands-on, very physical. Not that med-surg nursing or critical care nursing isn't physical. It is, just in a different way. The type of nursing I did, especially when people are first admitted to a psychiatric unit, a lot of times they're in crisis. If they're bad enough to being be being admitted against their will, then chances are they're at a point where their illness has their judgment really impaired. And sometimes that extends to believing that they're in danger. There can be delusions where they truly believe that the staff trying to help them, in their mind, they truly believe that you're there to hurt them. So I don't blame any of them for when they become physically aggressive, if they truly believe that, like, there's a conspiracy and people are trying to hurt them, and they think they're fighting for their life, for their safety. Now, sometimes to admit people who are just bad people, sociopaths, criminals, people who have been beating up their wife and abusing their animals and children and, committing crime. Yeah, sometimes you admit bad people. I never really had the same patience with, because if you know what you're doing and you're choosing to hurt someone, that's very different to me than someone who hurts someone because they're just at a very acute point in their illness and they can't make that reality-based determination that you're trying to help them. Fortunately, folks who are in that situation, usually once they're in the hospital for a couple days and they're back on medication, or if it's their first psychotic break, they're started on medication that helps them get the symptoms under control, and then you see a turnaround. And for me, that was the gratifying part of the job, was seeing someone who was genuinely, struggling with these symptoms, to see them get them under control, to see the medication start to work, to see the person's real personality start to come through, and not just the symptoms. Someone with a mental illness, there's still stigma around it, which shouldn't be there. They're more than their illness. They are a person first. The illness is secondary. Just like I'm a person who had a spinal cord injury. I'm a person who has asthma. I'm still a person first. But one of the reasons, like, I sleep with my pill organizer on the bed, I sleep with this on the I have a queen size bed. This sleeps on what would be the other person's pillow, so that on bad days like today, when getting up is out of the question, when I first wake up, I woke up at 3:30. It's what? It's probably about it's 4:10. Okay, the clock says it's 4:10. Um, some days when I wake up, I can't even roll over. The pain is so bad. Today was one of those days. I woke up at 3:30. I was on my back, which is how I sleep, and the pain in my back and head were just awful. To the point like you lay there aware of the fact that you're in pain, but you can't even get yourself to move, not even to roll over. It takes a few minutes. This little square throw pillow, which I affectionately refer to as Fuzzy and Blue, if you were raised on Sesame Street and then raised your children on Sesame Street, you might be familiar with the Fuzzy and Blue song. It's thinking Grover and Cookie Monster and another Fuzzy and Blue guy whose name is not coming to me sing it. Anyway, it's adorable. It's one of my favorite Sesame Street songs. And you're thinking, really, Denise, you have favorite Sesame Street songs? Yes, I do. I admit it. And I don't think I even picked them up from watching it when I was a kid. I think I picked them up from watching it over and over and over while my kids were kids. My kids are 22 and 17 now, so my Sesame Street days are long behind me. But yeah, the Fuzzy and Blue song is catchy. If you ever get a chance to check it out, YouTube Grover singing Fuzzy and Blue. It's adorable. Anyway, so yeah, nicknamed this pillow, which happens to be just the right thickness, so that if I roll onto my side, I guess it's probably what it's the thickness of. Kind of is my shoulder to my neck, so it kind of keeps my head in straight line with my body. If I were to have a fatter pillow, my head would be like tipped up more, which would put more stress on my neck. And without a pillow, my head would be flopped down more, which would put stress on my neck. So basically, Fuzzy and Blue also sleeps right next to me. And on days like today, when I wake up and just moving, just changing position hurts too much, I just kind of gently ease this under my head and roll to my side. And then, I took some Tylenol out of my pill case that I showed you, and again, everyone, I have mentioned this in a video or two. I did start this year, in the last 6 months, I did start on medical marijuana for pain relief. So that's on my night table. So I took a half a dose of that. It's the liquid that you put under your tongue. So I took half a dose of that to see if it would help the Tylenol work. Yeah, these are the days that it's easy to feel like this sucks. This is why I can't be a reliable employee. This is why, because I'm not a snob about, as much as I loved being a nurse, I'm not a snob about, I could never work as anything other than an RN, because, hey, I made $90,000 a year when I did that, and, spent 26 years doing it, and not to pat my own back, but I was good at it. And a lot of being good at it just has to do with caring. Yes, there's a whole set of skills you have to learn, but taking care of people, if you don't have a caring personality, if you don't genuinely care that they get better, and if it doesn't make you feel good to see them get better and to help them get better, then you shouldn't be taking care of people. That's just my opinion. if you're like, yeah, nursing's a good paycheck, that's why I went into it, um, but you have no compassion for people or no patience for people, then in my opinion, you shouldn't be a nurse or a doctor. Um, but I'm, like I said, I'm not a snob. I'm not like, oh, because I had a nice paying career for 26 years that, it would be beneath me to try to get, at this point, there's no way I could work a full-time job. I just can't. There are too many days, besides the deficits that made me unable to stay doing the nursing job, primarily my balance being that of somebody who's had a few cocktails and is now walking on a moving ship. Um, there's the muscle atrophy primarily in my legs, also in my arms, uh, because of the spinal cord damage. Um, and there's the fact that with the headaches and the back pain and the neck pain, there are just days that I wake up like this that I can't even move. So I would not be able to be a reliable employee at anything because there would just be too many days where I would be having to call in at the last minute that I couldn't make it to work. So I do want to point out though that I'm not saying this and I'm not showing you this aspect of the life of someone with a disability. I don't want you to feel bad for me. I don't want you to pity my situation. I don't pity myself. Um, I just want to show people the reality that when you see me or someone else who doesn't look disabled to you, and you see them getting out of their car which has a disabled parking permit, and on your 2-second glance of them, they don't look disabled to you. You don't know how their day started. You don't, like, hopefully in a few hours I will feel significantly better than this. Maybe I won't, but there's a good chance that I will, especially since I'm on. It used to be if I woke up with a headache like this, that I could pretty much count on the fact that the day was shot. That at least half of the day, if not the whole day, was going to be spent in bed in the dark, and that was just going to be that. I have been on Amavig, which is a once-a-month injection, relatively new as far as migraine treatment goes. And I do have chronic refractory migraines, which were made 10 times worse by the spinal cord injury, which then added cervicogenic migraines to the already existing migraines that I've had since I was a teenager. But like I was saying, like, I'm not showing you this to say, oh, poor Denise. Because no, Denise, while Denise might be financially on the poor side, there's nothing poor about my life. I very easily could have died or been paralyzed from the neck down. And I'm every day reminded, like when I trip or find myself like losing my balance and leaning against something and thinking, yep, that would have been a fall if there wasn't something there to lean against. Or I forget to pick my feet up high enough when I'm walking, which was something that I had to learn. It took me about 2 years after the neck injury to be cognizant that every step I have to pick my feet up because I don't have that natural inclination to know how high to pick your feet up with each step that I think we all learn, like as, toddlers learning to walk. You just automatically know how high to pick your feet up. Well, after a spinal cord injury, sometimes you lose that, especially when your injury was as high up in your neck as mine was. I'm fused at this point. My surgery has my neck is fused from C4 to C6, which is pretty high up in your neck. Which, and everything below that is affected. But again, this isn't about like, oh, poor me. That's not why I'm showing you what a bad morning looks like. It's about just the reality and the fact that you have to, if you don't want to be miserable. And yeah, was there a period of being miserable when I first had to give up my career? It was beyond miserable. It was a period of mourning. It was something I did with my life for 26 years that I loved. And that's not to say I didn't have bad days at work or days at work where you want to like smack everybody you work with because they're annoying. We all have those days. But overall, I loved what I did. I looked forward to going to work most of the time. I had the occasional job, and usually, as soon as I realized the job wasn't a good match to me, I would find something that was. I worked at one hospital for 11 years, loved it. Was at another one for about 4 years, loved it. That was before I moved, and something was obviously becoming wrong as my balance got worse and my leg strength got worse. And that was the vertebrae digging into my spinal cord. And it took a long time to get diagnosed, and the damage was done by the time it was diagnosed. There was surgery was to prevent further damage and to prevent me from being paralyzed from the neck down. But there's no fixing a spinal cord that's been partially severed. So, yeah, when I have one of those moments of almost falling on my ass, or even when I do fall, which does happen, I remind myself that I'm lucky that I was on my feet to fall, because, like my neurosurgeon told me, I was one small bumping of my head or a little fender bender or anything that could have stressed my neck, one small incident away from having been either dead or paralyzed from the neck down, depending on whether it severed deep enough to cut my respiratory muscles. That's how precarious my situation was when they got in there, realized what was wrong, got in there and did the surgery to remove the sharp bits. If you're interested, you can look at videos of discectomy and basically cervical spinal stenosis was the diagnosis I had. They remove discs, they remove the sharp bone growths that don't belong there. Obviously, it's a degenerative disease. And they use cadaver bone to replace some of what they've taken out. And then they use titanium screws and a plate to hold the whole mess together. And you're in a neck immobilizer for, I believe it was 6 weeks. And then the whole learning to pick your feet up enough starts, and remembering to try to swing your arms in a natural looking way like people do when they walk. Because I don't naturally do that anymore. My arms just kind of hang straight when I walk. Unless I'm remembering, like, hey Denise, when people walk, their arms move kind of opposite to their legs. And if you don't want to look like a robot walking, a robot with bad balance, I should add, you want to try to add that natural looking minor arm swing without overdoing it, which will also make you look like a robot. It took, like I said, took me about 2 years to probably get the hang of picking my feet up and that was like with every step, looking down, looking at the ground surface. Still, if I'm walking outside on bumpy ground, on snow, in the spring when the ground is really like rutted and bumpy, because it gets really muddy here in the spring when over the winter we will accumulate a couple feet of snow usually, because goes months and months that it doesn't get warm enough to melt. So each time it snows, and the past few days it's been snowing, and we already had snow. um, when it suddenly gets warm and that starts melting, it's really muddy. And like my driveway where I live is not paved. It's dirt, and like it will get deep ruts in it from where it's been plowed over the winter and where it got dug into. Then have that turn into mud. It gets ruts from people's car tires, including my own. So, like on that type of surface, I still have to look down and be mindful of each step because I've gotten better as far as on a flat surface, like indoors, or if I'm walking on a relatively smooth. Now, again, I live out in the sticks, we don't have sidewalks here, but if I were walking somewhere with sidewalks that are relatively smooth and maintained, I can get away without having to look at the ground constantly and just walk mindful of picking my feet up like a normal person does when they walk. But again, like in people's 3-second assessment of you when they see you get out of your car parked in a handicap spot, they don't know any of that. They don't know that walking in the open space where there's nothing to lean on, say if you had to park at the far end of the parking lot, for me, that's the risk. The fact that there's nothing to lean on and I'm walking through a busy parking lot, say, what comes to mind for me, probably because I make long trips up and down from where I live to the lower part of the state where my family and friends are. So I'm thinking, say, one of the rest stop areas along the Northway or the Thruway, which in New York State, they're the two main highways that get you from the southern part of the state to the northern part of the state. But most major highways have rest stop areas, somewhere to grab something to eat, use a bathroom, and get gas for your car. So it's not that I can't walk, but like by parking close to the building, it's just a very short space, short distance that I have to walk before I'm back to, okay, I can rest my hand on against a wall or a railing, and I've got that something to balance on while I'm making my way through. And then taking like the shortest walk through open space, especially if it's crowded and people might bump into me, which, believe me, very easy to knock me off my balance. So it might seem like, well, if you can walk, why do you need to use the handicap spot? Well, that's because people drive like lunatics when they're, for some reason, they think they're still on the thruway where they were doing 70 miles an hour, even though they're in a parking lot where, lots of people are trying to park, unpark, get out of their cars and walk to the building, maybe walking their dog, around the edges of the parking lot. Having to walk a far distance in those conditions, that's not safe for me. So if I'm parked at the far end of the lot and had to walk the whole, like down the aisle of moving cars, backing in and out of spaces, people pulling into the lot, not really being mindful of pedestrians, and I'm not walking next to a wall or a railing or anything, even the side of the building that I could use to regain my balance if I needed to. The danger for me would be losing my balance and falling where there is traffic, essentially. So, yeah, that's why even on a good day, because even on good days my balance doesn't improve. That's permanent. That's something I live with every day. But good days don't have pain, like what I woke up with at 3:30, with why I'm lying flat talking to you instead of sitting up. But even on good days, my balance does not get better. And that's why I'm parking closer to the building, so that I don't have to walk that long distance where there's a lot of traffic and people getting frustrated and impatient and not really looking or driving as carefully as they should in an area where there's a lot of pedestrians, some of whom don't have good balance. um, but so now it's like I have a ton of things I want to do. I posted videos yesterday once we finally got power back after we had a power outage that lasted a little over 27 hours. It's well below freezing here, which meant keeping a generator running. I think part of why my back is hurting so much, I can pretty much pinpoint to helping my son move the generator. It's too heavy for one person. It does have a wheel kit on it that you can kind of lift it, like it's got wheels in the back and, feet or legs, for lack of a more technical term, in the front with a handle. So like he'll lift it so that it's on the wheels and move it. But getting it up that one step from the porch, obviously you have to use it outdoors. It's uses gas. It's loud. It's a gas burning engine. It's not something you can use in the house. You then just run an extension cord under the door and plug the stuff inside. But once the power came back on, getting it back up that step to get it back into the house where we store it when we're not using it. I was standing at the awkward angle of I was up the step, like I was the one in the house trying to help lift, which I'm not as strong as I used to be. I can't lift like I used to, and even if I could have, by being up a step meant I was having to lean down and lift, which if you've ever tried to do that, it's just very awkward. You really need to be down at the level of the thing you're lifting to use proper body mechanics. And I felt my back hurt. And we changed positions, and he took the more awkward position so that I went then outside and was, lifting from a flatter place. And we did get it in the house then, but I think I had already pulled something in my back. Because like my whole upper back hurts way more than like an average bad day waking up hurt. Usually the hurt is mostly in my head and my neck. And today it goes down from my head and neck down to about the middle of my back. And it just feels like in my upper back all the muscles are tightened up. So I'm thinking it's from that. Again, this is what a waking up with a bad day is. I just think of them where you wake up and the first thing that you do is think, I can't move. I'd like to roll over, but I can't because it's going to hurt too much. And the first 5 minutes or so, I just spent doing, and I don't know how much it actually helps versus it just gives you something else to focus on, but doing acupressure points on the back of my neck. And I recently learned about some in your hands and wrists that are supposed to help with pain and with headaches specifically. So I spent about 5 minutes doing that while working up the nerve to try to roll over onto my side where you see me, isn't it a flattering angle? It's like I just want to hide all of this because this is such a not flattering angle. But then the next thing was, okay, I'm on my side, maybe the change of position sometimes. If I have to sleep pretty much flat on my back. It's how I sleep. I can only stay on my side for so long because I do have I have pain in the tendons that run down the outside of both hips to thighs. So from hip to knee, those tendons on the outside of my legs hurt to lie on for more than a few minutes. The left side is a little better. I can stay on this side a little longer. My right side, after about 5 minutes, it hurts too much and I have to go back to laying on my back. So I spend the night sleeping on my back. But sometimes getting rolling over to the side and letting things kind of stretch or move a little bit will help my back and the back of my neck. And, that's kind of the headaches are in the back of my neck and the side of my head, and today all the way up to the top of my head. So it's like the goal is, okay, let's try to get on your side. Then let's try to reach over and take something for pain. And it's a gradual process of the change of position, the gradually trying to move a little bit as you feel things easing up. Like, it's like, okay, my shoulders and neck and back really hurt, but stretching my shoulders a little bit, I feel like I'm starting to move those muscles at the top of my back and shoulders that are hurting. So it's like inch by inch trying to deal with the pain until it gets to the point that hopefully within the next half hour I'll be able to sit up. And to someone who has never dealt with this, it might be like, you're kidding me, right? I wish I was kidding you. And again, I'm thankful that this is not how most days start, especially since I'm now on medications that help so that I don't wake up with the excruciating headaches as often as I used to. And again, please don't think this is like, oh, poor Denise. It's not. Denise is very lucky not to have died or been paralyzed from the neck down. I was in my 40s, which was young for the degenerative disease that I had that caused this injury. So it wasn't something they were looking for in somebody my age, unfortunately. And like I was saying about people who don't care about people shouldn't be doctors, I dealt with a few of those, and they were like, oh, must just be a drug addict pretending she's in pain to get pain medicine. Or, hey, their ego can't take the fact that if they can't figure out what's wrong with you, well, then there must be nothing wrong with you. Either you're faking it because you want to get disability, which, for anyone who's like, oh, lucky that person, they don't even have to go to work, they get paid to stay home. There's nothing lucky about having this happen to you. That's another thing that makes me want to smack people. And I'm a peaceful person. Please, no, I don't smack people. But, that thought does go through your head, like, what an ignorant thing to say. I was financially secure. I had a job that I loved. I helped people, which is my nature. So for me, being a nurse was just natural. It was like, it was a no-brainer. It was what I was going to be. My grandmother was a nurse. My mother was a nurse. And I knew it was what I was going to be. And once I became one, I knew it was the right decision. So saying that how lucky that I'm now physically a mess, had to give up being around horses, which was like the passion in my life. It was something I've done since I was a child. I had to get rid of my 3 horses who I had raised from the time they were weaned from their biological horsey mamas. My mares I had for 8 years, my gelding I had for 6 years, and it wasn't just about riding, because I would have kept them if it was simply that I couldn't ride, which I couldn't do. My balance and leg strength went from that of someone who's ridden most of her life, in other words, like kick-ass leg strength, and I've had exceptional balance since I was a child. So obviously I couldn't ride anymore. And if that was all, I would have never, ever parted with my horses, because I love them, and they were part of what, other people go to a therapist. I went and talked to my horses. So I loved them from ground level for who they were, not just because it was a sport and I liked to ride. A horse still loves you. Just because you can't ride it anymore doesn't make it love you less. If you've raised it and you're its mama and its mind, and it enjoys your company. It was the fact that I couldn't take care of them and needed help doing so. Needing help doing so is kind of an understatement. I needed someone else to do it. And financially, I went from being married in a two-income family where we both made good money to being disabled, but having first a roommate to share expenses with, then a boyfriend slash fiance for 4 years to share expenses with, to then when he ended the relationship, it was going to be me and my son having to live on just disability. I could not provide for my horses. I couldn't physically take care of them because when you have no balance, two of my three were draft horses. If you're not familiar with horses, that basically just means that they're the big, heavy, like picture when you think of horses that are suitable for either, carrying a knight in armor, which was what Percherons were originally bred for back in the day, or for later use, they're used for farm work. They're big, heavy, heavier than your standard riding type horse. So two of my three were draft breeds. My big girl, Aloha, was probably around 1,700 pounds at least. Very tall, very strong, and at times, while she's a very good girl, she is a gentle soul, and always was. Even when she was very young, she was very conscious of people's safety. But if you're walking a 1,700-pound animal and you trip, a horse is not a dog. A horse is a prey animal, whereas us predators spend most of our time with other predators like cats and dogs. A prey animal spooks. It always assumes something is ready to eat it, and it makes them a little more dangerous to handle because when they get afraid, they make sudden movements. None of my three would have ever hurt me on purpose, but if you fall in front of them, they don't expect you to fall. It startles them. And Aloha once, when she was young, got scared and did like a semi-rear and spin and came down on my foot, which suffered a soft tissue crush injury as a result, which is worse than fracturing the bones in your foot. You can ask an ER doctor about that. They will explain it. Because it can destroy the whole lymphatic system. It can rip the skin off your foot, which luckily, that lovely thing is known as degloving. Luckily, that did not happen. You can lose your foot from a crush injury. It takes much longer to heal, and it doesn't always heal well as far as the lymphatics, and you can end up with a foot that swells and won't unswell ever. So she did that as a youngster, and I had better balance then. Once she was full size, it wasn't safe for me to be walking her, because when you're walking a large animal like that, your attention is on the animal, and they do move, and they do turn their head to look at things, and I can so easily get knocked off my balance, or if she's trying to hurry and I'm having to remind her to have her manners and not hurry. If she's trying to walk faster than I could walk, it was just asking for me to fall. I didn't have the strength required to groom three horses. I couldn't properly take care of them, is what I'm trying to get at. Not safely for me, and not the care that they deserved. And then financially, boarding three horses. Now, part of living in the sticks, the benefit is there are a lot more horses and land is cheaper. So boarding them is cheaper. But it doesn't come, the barns up here are not fancy. They don't come with the perks. When you're in a more affluent area, like where I lived when I got my horses, yeah, you're paying a lot more to keep them, but there are also more services available it costs more money, but you could pay someone to groom your horses. The staff at the barn walk your horses in and out to turn them in and out every day. They get your horses and hold them during farrier appointments, hoof trimmings, or if the vet comes to do their, twice a year horses get immunizations. Once a year, the dentist comes and sees them. When you're at a barn that is inexpensive, not in an affluent area, you're expected to be there and holding your horses during these things. And that can be, when you have 3 of them, many hours standing out in either the heat or the cold, depending on the time of year. They don't like having their teeth done. One of mine was nervous about having her feet done, so that was always an adventure. Even with a sedative, I think her adrenaline would get going, that the sedative frequently had no effect. My point being, I was very physical and I wasn't up for it. And I am very thankful to the people that took my horses and promised me that they will spend the rest of their lives together, because they are each other's family. In the absence of the mama, who's been there their whole lives since they left their biological mama, what they've had forever is each other. So leaving their home, leaving their friends, both human and horse, and leaving the person who's been a constant in their lives as long as they can remember, it wasn't easy. And one of them in particular had a very hard time adjusting. But luckily, the people who were taking care of them were patient. I mean, like the patience of saints, and got them through the adjustment period. So I miss them every day, but I miss them for me. I know that they are in the best hands they could be in, and they're getting even better care than what I was able to provide for them, because they're being taken care of by one of those tongue-tied moments, able-bodied people who have great veterinary and hoof care and everything they need. So I know my horses are living a happy life, but I miss them. So yeah, lucky that you get to sit home and not work. No, people. And if you ever hear someone say that about someone who lost their career and the lifestyle that they're able to afford, including their pets who they loved, and if you hear someone say that makes them lucky, give them a slap for me and remind them there's nothing lucky about that. Look, I'm making myself cry because I'm thinking about my horses. It's been 5 months, and I miss them every day. But yeah, this is how a not great day starts. And like I said, hopefully it'll get better over the next hour or two. And I will try now in a little while to turn over onto the other side and stretch my shoulders a little bit. I can feel the pain in my shoulder itself. I can feel it in my back, or I think I pulled the muscles. I've had tendonitis in both shoulders at different points. I've had to go to physical therapy. I'm hoping I didn't do that to myself. I really don't. I don't think I did. I think it's just muscle pulls in my back from, like I said, the bad body mechanics involved with trying to lift something that was too heavy for me to lift. But there's nothing lucky about losing your career, your health. And like I said, it's not about the value of, oh, I don't have this expensive car, or I don't have that expensive house. But it's about losing the things that matter to you, like your career and your pets. Those are the losses that I feel. And of course, this mess that, I have to live in for the rest of my life, that doesn't work the way it did for the first 40-something years. But again, it's not like, oh, poor me. I recognize I'm lucky to be alive. I'm lucky to be walking. I'm lucky that I can still enjoy these years with my son, the one who lives with me, and also my older one who I visit. He lives with my mother. And since my dad passed away, um, it's been like 6 weeks since my dad passed away. So we've been going down to see my mom and my older son more often, weather allowing. This time of year, you can never predict when it's going to be a bad travel day or travel weekend. So that aspect has been good, getting to see my son, Dennis, the older one who doesn't live with me. Getting to see him more often is great. It's a lot of driving. Hopefully Patrick will be getting his permit. Not this week, but next week when they have their spring break. We're going to try to get over to DMV and get his learner's permit so he can start driving, which he's looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to having another driver besides myself in the house, because, like, right now, could I get up and drive? No, I couldn't. So it'll be great when he's able to. And I guess really the other thing I wanted to say is, even on a bad day, you got to try to keep a sense of humor. You got to try to keep a sense of gratitude. Remind yourself that hopefully, if your doctors are doing what they can do and you're doing what you can do to keep your situation, your health as good as it can be, hopefully the bad days become fewer from whenever your illness or injury was first diagnosed. Obviously, there are people who are struggling with progressive diseases that, some can be one step forward, 2 steps back, because over time, unfortunately, they get worse. I mean, we all get older, but if you're dealing with a progressive, like, say, neurological or neuromuscular disease like ALS or MS or any of those, I think it can be harder to stay positive as those things advance, and I give so much credit to people who are able to keep a positive attitude, who are going through that. For me, it's kind of status quo at this point, that there are days I wake up with neuropathy pain, like a burning feeling in my hands or feet. I can feel like my toes are on fire for absolutely no discernible reason. Nothing is different yesterday than it was, the day before, and yet one of those days I will just have this burning pain in my feet for no reason. It's part of life after your spinal cord's been damaged. It just happens. And, you can work with your doctor and get to the best place that you can be in, which is what I try to do, so that these bad days are fewer. But I guess I just wanted to share that, not every day is up and a big smile on my face and trying to get stuff done. The plan is I have a ton of stuff that needs doing today, and it's been almost an hour. It's almost 5 o'clock. And I'm hoping by 9, maybe, if all goes well, I will be up and moving a little bit more and getting some stuff done. I want to continue on, I had shared on my Friday's goals for decluttering the area I got done, and I'm just taking on, like, small things. I'm not up to hours of work at a time. I can't do that. If I could do that, I'd be working. But just picking a small area to declutter. And Friday, I was able to do that before the power went out. When you having no internet or power, I just wasn't able to upload the video I had taken until last night when the power came back on. But yeah, waking up having one of these days today, kind of. First of all, like I said, I've been awake since 3:30 ish. So I'm not going to feel particularly well rested. The likelihood of me falling back to sleep when I feel like this is not good. It's just a matter of trying to keep gradually changing position, trying to get the muscles to loosen up, hoping the headache medicine works, and hoping that in a couple hours I can get up and gradually, the more you move, the easier it gets to move. And if the headache backs off, then I can get back to the rest of that wall of clutter and try to bit by bit work on it. And like I said, I'm taking that approach on days that aren't so good. Even if I do 3 10-minute sessions over the course of the whole day, that's putting in a half hour of decluttering, even if I have to break it down like that. And I consider that a success, especially on a day like today. If I'm able to do that later, I will definitely consider that a success, because it would be very easy to just be like, I can't do it today. And I don't want to let myself fall into the habit of, I can't do it today. I can accept that I can't do as much today as I would have liked to do, or as much that I could do on a day that I'm feeling better. But I try not to accept that I can't do anything today. Are there days that I end up not able to do anything? Yeah, occasionally there are. But I try to keep those as few as possible, because those are the days it's harder to feel good about. So if I can do 3 10-minute declutterings, even if it doesn't accomplish a whole lot, it'll accomplish something. And I'll feel like I got something done today. I worked towards my goal of getting rid of the clutter. Depending on what the roads are like, I may be able to get my son to load garbage and cardboard and stuff into the car, and I can drive us to the garbage dump and we can get rid of that stuff. That would be great. And I do have to pick up some fuel stabilizer, because I filled my gas cans. I didn't know how many days I'd be needing to use the generator. So I do need to go buy the fuel stabilizer to pour into them so that the gas stays good. Hopefully won't be needing to use it again in the immediate future. And you don't want the gas getting old sitting in the cans, so it's important to add the fuel stabilizer to it. So I do have to get out to a store and pick that up, hoping there is any even available, because everyone and their mother has been needing to use their generators. A lot of people still are. So hopefully I can pick some of that up today or tomorrow and just get it into the gas cans that I filled yesterday, so that I know they'll be good to go when I need to use them next. And that's it. And like I said, it's not about feeling sorry for yourself on a bad day, or however it is that you might label it when you have a day that you wake up. If you have a chronic health issue, I just kind of use the term bad day because it's simple and to the point. But yeah, it's trying to just keep a healthy mental attitude. In fact, what I'm probably going to do next, I mentioned that I use the app for meditation. It's called Headspace, and one of their meditation courses is pain management, and I think I'm on like the 7th or 8th lesson of it. So it's like a 15-minute meditation, And it starts out always with like a little bit of a talk, just a couple minutes talking about the subject, and then you do the meditation. So that's probably what I'm going to do next. Most meditations you're kind of meant to do sitting up. Obviously, I will be doing this laying down, but I'll be back on my back because my left hip has been hurting for a few minutes now. So I've been lying on my left side really longer than I comfortably can. And I'm just going to step by step do everything I can to feel better. And hopefully, like I said, in a couple hours, hopefully I'll be up, and even if I'm not doing a lot, I'll be doing something and getting some stuff done. So I don't know that I'll have another video today. If I get some decluttering done by this evening, I will take a quick video of what's been decluttered and show you. But otherwise, it's probably going to be pretty much a taking it easy, taking care of myself kind of day, and seeing what the weather holds. Hopefully nothing noteworthy, exciting, or anything that would put the power out. If you're still with me at an hour of listening to me talk about what it's like to be someone with an invisible disability, and what it's like on a bad day, I appreciate your patience. I appreciate that you care and are someone who either can relate because you live with something similar, or maybe you don't and you're just trying to understand what it's like for people who do. Not all disabilities are readily available the first, minute or two that you look at someone. If I'm sitting in a chair and I'm not walking and you're talking to me, you might not pick up at all on a good day that there's anything wrong until you see me try to stand up or walk and you see me lose my balance. So, I know what it's like to have people look at you and think there's nothing wrong with her. And as we've mentioned, that's something that, I just want to, when they, especially if they're rude enough to make a comment. But, again, thank you for watching, and I think it's important that people understand that not all disabilities are readily visible. And that doesn't make them less real. It doesn't make the impact that they've had on the person's life any less devastating. If I was covered in purple polka dots, people would say, wow, something's wrong with her. But I'm not. I have a small surgical scar on my neck that you can't really see right now. Well, yeah, you can. It's there. It looks like a wrinkle or a seam that was sewn, but yeah, that's it right there. That's where they went in and fixed my neck. But yeah, that's not going to grab anybody's eye and be like, oh wow, she must have had neck surgery. I bet it was something really serious, and I bet she has permanent limitations because of it. No, it's a little tiny mark on my neck that most people are never going to notice. So again, I appreciate for whatever reason that you stuck with me and watched this, and I think we all need to help educate those who are maybe ignorant by choice, or maybe just they don't understand that invisible illnesses and injuries do exist, and that there's nothing lucky about having one. I'd much rather be making the money I made in my career and living financially, not worrying month to month. I would much rather that. I'd much rather have my health. I'd much rather still have my beloved animals who I had to give up. That was a much better life than living on disability, which, for those who do not understand it, disability is not a handout. Walk into any Social Security disability office and you will see signs explaining it. Disability is an insurance policy that working people pay into with every single paycheck. It is not a handout. It's not something you got for free. For 26 years, I paid into disability, and you always hope when you're paying into it that you'll never need it. Unfortunately, I needed it fortunately, I worked on the books and paid my taxes the entire career. So for 26 years, I paid my disability insurance premiums. So when this happened, yes, it was an insurance policy that I paid for, that all working people pay for if they're having disability taken out of their check. So no, it's not welfare. It's not a handout that you got for free for doing nothing. If you're someone who never worked and paid taxes, you're really not going to be entitled to much of anything if you become disabled. So that's another judgment that comes out of ignorance that people make. Oh, you're on welfare. No, I'm not on welfare. I'm on disability, which is a very different thing. So, yeah, you've learned some of the things that push my buttons that people say or make comments on that are made from a place of ignorance. And I appreciate anything that people do to help spread the word in a way that will get people to listen and maybe open their eyes a little bit if they're willing to be educated and they're not closed-minded. I've talked for a long time, longer than I thought I would, but I guess when you're lying here and can't really move much, it's a time that you realize the stuff that's on your mind and that you do want people to know about your life if you've decided to share that aspect of your life, as I have. And again, thank you. Thank you for your patience, for listening. Thank you for wanting to know what it's like for someone who has a disability, if you're not someone who has one. And for my fellow folks with invisible illnesses, I know the struggle's real, you know the struggle's real, and we have to be a support and a source of encouragement to each other. And we have to help educate people who don't know, because some of them just don't know, and they don't mean to be hurtful. They don't know any better. Some people choose to be ignorant and hurtful, and we just have to deal with them. But the people who are open-minded and willing to learn and realize, oh, I didn't know that. Now that I know, I'll be more sensitive. Those are the people we can reach and try to educate. So I hope you're having a good day. I hope later on I'm having a good day. And thank you for being willing to share in the part of my life that's not fun and not exciting and not doing a product review of neat, fun stuff or talking about something that applies to everyone. I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but it's something that everyone should be aware of to help make us better people to the people around us. So have a great day, and thank you for being here today and for listening. Take care of yourself and take care of the people around you who might need your help, even if you don't realize it. Have a great day, everybody.